happened in LA first, and it's one of my favorite examples because a guy who had heard me before was saying, like hypothetically, he's going, okay, so Paul, so let's talk about Paul and Pauling, you know, like selfing. And so how much is Paul in Pauling? Like 50%, 25% for a day? And I said, no, you got it all wrong, you know. It's the Pauling that is used to produce the sense of Paul. When it succeeds, then the Paul goes, I'm the one who was Pauling. I was the one who's selfing. That is the whole thing. That's the heist. It was a perfect example because the guy was going off and I said, no. You believe the Paul is either Pauling or not Pauling, you know, 150, 30% of the day, but it's the Pauling that produces the sense of Paul. We produce the sense of Paul, but the Pauling implies that there's a Paul. Yeah? It insinuates, it assumes, it suggests, it presupposes, as Ramana would say, yeah? So the presupposing, so there's a supposing by the mental states, the narration, yeah, to an audience, which is us, yeah? And then the audience it's sort of like one of those shows that the audience gets engaged. So the audience gets engaged with it, and suddenly it goes, yeah, about Pauling, and then a sense of Paul arises, and then suddenly that which is forget, and now it's suddenly Paul. And so assume, basically, at that point, then Paul takes credit or blame for the Pauling. Yeah, it doesn't see the Pauling produces the sense of Paul. Yeah, so there's a switch. So there's an activity that produces a sense, or is used to produce the sense, and then that sense gets presupposed into before it, and so then you think, it's just like the thing. People would call me and say, or email me, hey, Paul, I really like your message to selfing, and not my message anyway. And so they say, but I've been selfing all day. And I said, no, that's not the selfing. The selfing is the sense of being the one who's doing the selfing, yeah? Or someone will call me and say, you know, the selfing's been driving me crazy today. I said, no, the selfing has been used to imply there's one that's being driven crazy, yeah? That's the whole thing. That's the whole trick. That which comes after, and it's produced, the sense of Paul, you didn't have it when you were a baby. Yeah? It's produced, then suddenly that which comes after is implied to be before. So now you take ownership over a lot of stuff you have no fucking ownership. Just like, you know, I got a haircut tonight, literally. And so it cut all the hair I've been growing for 4 months. So it was a painful evening. And I missed the hair and I worked so hard to grow that hair. But basically, it sounds like I had something to do with something I had nothing to do with. Yeah? This happening all day. You don't see it. And then this believes the whole freaking enchilada. So now you believe time goes like, there was a past, there is this moment, and we only give it the word present moment based on its relation to past and future, really. It's not even worthy of a rest stop, basically. You're always just going from, you know, in this only now there is. And then there's the future, yeah? So, where was I with that? So this idea of the selfing, it implies that you were before, and then it implies you were way before, which is historical. So you were there 30 years ago, and then it presupposes that you're going to be there in the future, in a way. Yeah, you're there. And so it produces its own sense of I am, but it's I am Paul, or I am Chris, or I am one of the hundreds of people that are here. Yeah? But how it gets to the I am Paul isn't by I am. It's not just being on. It says I was on, I'm gonna be on, therefore I am now. See, it's a trippy little maneuver, yeah? It takes time, so it goes from I was Paul, just look at all these stories and pictures and everything, yeah? I will be Paul, therefore I am Paul now. And that's so that suddenly that gets presupposed before the I am, and now you believe it's Paul that's conscious, not that there's a consciousness of Paul. Yeah. You see, if you see the heist, it'll change. Because before it is infinity, after it, you're never going to have enough time to get ahead of it. Yeah, because it's always going to presuppose itself through all the actions you do. It's obviously using every action. Now, I really believed that there were some actions or some ways of life that would be immune to it, or like have an electrified spiritual fence it couldn't cross or get under, but I've noticed it hasn't. It can claim anything that we bring it in contact with. We bring it into contact, yeah? And once it claims it, it'll use it to do the same thing that it uses everything else to do, to imply there's you, a you, yeah, a you. And it produces a you millions of ways, in a sense, but it's just a you, really pretty basic, it believes in time, it's a body, you know, you could say there's really one genre of a you, yeah, but then the you gets further developed by being crowned me, you know, that's when it really gets. That's its pinnacle of evolution, yeah? When it becomes me, it suddenly has distance made up from all the other yous. And it becomes a special you, such a special you, it's all that you usually think about, yeah? You don't apply thinking much to any other you, yeah? But to this you, crowned me, it gets to be quite. It's like a flower to a bee, you know, the bees of thought just fucking go in there, land on it, and pollinate, and then they just produce more and more time, and fucking karma levels, you know, karmic sheaths and impressions, and therefore they all have to play out, and so this whole thing keeps going, yeah? Now, it's going to keep going as long as we're here, but you can travel later. Yeah. I think it's really valuable. Some people say, well, there is no person, so it doesn't matter. But I see those people they can't say that they're bummed out because they think there's no one and there's to be bummed out. To me, that's weirder than just seeing that, you know, no, right now this seems to be real, it's experiential, and you know what? There is a preference that we want to be happy, joyous, and free, let's say, or secure, successful, and loved, just some whatever vague names we give it, but it has a certain drive sheathed in this, you know? And what better gift or boon to have is traveling lighter through all the experiences, yeah? Not given a great experience, because they come and go, obviously. How many people thought everything was going to change based on that great experience, but it doesn't, because it's sort of like the momentum, yeah, is got some oomph. It's sort of like if someone who's really cool becomes the president, it doesn't change the presidency changes them, yeah, because it's systemic, yeah, it's a huge driving force, yeah. So here, experience is definitely not going to be where the lightness comes from, yeah. It will be expressed as you're having experiences or they're experienced having, but it can't be an experience. They're too finite, they're too coming and going, yeah. You can't depend on them. But if your attitude and outlook changed, if that which comes before or sets up the experiences changes, what could happen? You could have a certain ability to travel lighter through whatever life has in store for you. And if you did that in a sense, and I mean mind as this, after a few years, you realize, what more do you really want as this? Yeah. Because I know having tons of shit doesn't work. Having no shit doesn't work. Yeah. In a lot of cases, you got to find a balance. But enough is a cool space, so you get enough. And basically, what more do you want? And therefore, there's a piece that gets developed in a sense as this, and then that anxiety. It's like a huge undercurrent, gets counteracted by contentment and satisfaction. You're content and satisfied on a level where there's no quenching of that thirst. You have to see that it isn't so. Yeah, if you keep trying to quench that thirst, it just creates more thirst. It's like that hungry ghost in Tibetan Buddhism with the big belly and the small mouth. The more it eats, the worse it gets because he can't have enough. Yeah. So there's a quenching of a thirst, but not by quenching it. Yeah, by seeing something. And now suddenly, the contentment and satisfaction has a lot of room if everything is cool out here, but it's not based out of everything is cool out here. It's based on something else. There's an innate condition that's now become, whereas in AA we say an unsuspected inner resource that's been tapped into. And you're basically, in my feeling here, is we're just effects of things that we don't even know really. We believe we're a cause, but I would say we're more of an effect or more of an expression than the impression. We gather impressions, then this is the expression of them. Yeah, you know what I mean? This whole event now is an expression of gathered impressions, I'd say. So, seeing the aspect of time and seeing that what is being assumed to be you is assumed to be you later after you. You know what I mean? You're way before the assumption of a you. Yeah? You're not a you and you're not defined as a body, but you're way before. And so suddenly, it's only when that which comes after takes the place of what's before that you're trying to get to that before, but through experience and doing and having out here, which causes the after to seem to be more and more of the before. Yeah? Do you know? So yeah, it's just like switching, and then suddenly the horse is in front of the cart and it just feels correct. You just have a correction, and now the logic of, instead of trying to find you from what you're not, or trying to look for what you are from what you're not, you see what you're not from what you are. It's the same event in a sense. Yeah? You could be here looking for what you are from what you're not, or your attention could be more here, seeing what you're not, looking for what you are. Yeah? You know what I mean? It's the same. It's just what seat are you on in the little thing? Are you sitting here or there? Yeah? So, it's the same. There's a looking for what you are from what you're not, and then there's a seeing at all times of what you're not from what you are. And us being more of a vague, everywhereness, if it leans this way, it sees what it's not. If it seemingly leans that way, it's looking for what it is from what it's not. Therefore, yeah. So the same sight can be blind, could reinforce the blindness, or it could clarify the seeing. Yeah? If the seeing's from what you're not, it turns into a form of looking, which is blind to what's seen. If you see what you're not from what you are, yeah, you see the looking for what you are, but from what you are. Yeah? You see the difference. You know what looking is when it's seen by seeing. Yeah, you see it as a self-centeredness, or a bifocalness, or it's sort of like the third eye is given, pair of glasses, so now it's single eye, looks through things, yes, no, high, low, this or that, close and far. Yeah? And the projection of the dreaming goes through that or through this. So here it's going through that, so then that which is projected is perceived to be real from the projected. Yeah? That which is projected is seen to be not you from the dreaming. If you see, yeah, if you see this is a projection, this is a dreamt, there's a sense of the seeing of it. If you're looking at this place from the dreamt, it's real. Yeah. So the Course would say it's projection, then perception. We believe we forget the projection completely, and we're just thinking we're perceiving something real and solid and, self-existent, so to speak. And like Buddhism 101 takes that whole rug out. It says everything is temporal and coming and going, and there's no inherent thing anywhere. It's all fucking empty. Yeah? But see, you can say that thousands of times, but it sure looks like you're looking at things. So, but to see that which is perceiving, yeah, seemingly, you see this. If you can perceive this, it cannot be perceiving. So you see that which is saying is perceiving as the perceived. It's sort of, there's no more. You don't have to go to 8 grades of that lesson. There's a seeing of it, and then you may not. It may not click into you saw it, but mind saw it. Yeah, and remember, you're just transportation in a sense for mind. Mind sees something, and then you think you lost it, but it never was lost. When mind sees, it sees. Yeah, you may huff and puff and act like it's different for 7 years, but you're slowing up. There's not a huge, you're not putting like high-end fuel in it anymore. It's just, it's playing out its last tank, going to, you know what I mean? But mine got the clarity long, long before time. To want this to grok it is pointless, really. Because this has its own source code, yeah? To have it sit here and try to convince people they have no free will is pointless, completely, to me. Because you have a feeling that you do. As long as Ramana said, if there's a sense of individuality, there's free will. So when there's a sense of individuality, there's free will. Why try to argue that to that which is the dreamt, Just point out just point out what we're not. Why do you want to educate it? It's got a limited amount of knowledge it can absorb, because its limitations will define it. Yeah, you're going to be the feeling like you're the one who has the knowledge. That's what it does. Like in AA, we say self-knowledge avails you nothing. Wow. That's a pretty stern statement. Self-knowledge avails you nothing. But knowledge of self is unbelievably valuable. Because if you have knowledge of self, it may lead to the idea, hey, I'm not that. How could I be that? That's fucking freaking impossible. Yeah? And in that, there's value. But that same knowledge, if claimed by self, avails you nothing. Yeah? So without seeing the heist, there's a tendency to be looking from it. And when you're looking from it, you don't even know there was a heist, period. You're like, what? Because, you don't recognize the thief and the cop and the saint. We're playing every role. Yeah. So this idea of Paul is Pauling is off. It's Pauling implies a Paul. Selfing implies a self, not selfing. Yeah? There's no self that's ever self. But there's selfing that implies a self. And it's playing to an audience and of none, really, of mind, and we're that audience. If we believe it, it seems to be so. Even if we don't believe it as this, it will still seem to be so. But if you don't believe it as what you are, It will seem to be so, but it won't be so. Yeah? This isn't gonna get it. As long as this is running around, it's crazy, man. So that's why we don't talk to anyone from here. Is it off?
That's saying software update I'll have later.
Huh?
Remind me later. You have a software update you have to do.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, just don't.
It's
Just remind me later. Yeah. It's got enough battery, I think. This will probably go in my personal file anyway. I just wanted to share with you two guys because I know you and I like you, and this interests me, the idea of time. I think it's the basis. First of all, the language is terrible because it sounds like there's something called time, you know what I mean? Like a big thing. But time is an activity also. It's mind dreaming. It needs time to dream. It would, like Wei Wu Wei used to say, you have to have space to see something in, and you need time to see it. So time and space are the fundamental aspects of the dreaming. I don't believe there's a dream. There's dreaming. It's an activity that we're in right now. That's why I think observing and witnessing doesn't work, because it's all happening in the dreaming. Yeah? Do you know what I mean? I'm observing the dream. No, the camera keeps us like that little thing we used to joke with the Monty Python. They come out of the woods, and then there's a film group, and there's another thing. There's always someone filming. Yeah, and it goes on ad infinitum. Yeah. That's like the 100 monkey syndrome. You don't have to go through 10 film crews. There's always going to be something watching that's, yeah. So here you are saying, I'm the witness, but then there's witnessing of that, and it goes on. So there's no way there's a witness. There's witnessing, yeah. There's seeing, there's no seer. There's seeing. Yeah, so you get the sense of it. See, we have a sense of being a noun with the body identification, a strong sense. It's nice to start shooting up some sense of verbing, yeah? To see that, you're not a thing. Yeah? You're an activity. You are all activity. You are all dreaming, yeah? What would change? If you didn't wake up from a dream at night, it would be reality. The only thing that causes it to be seen as, oh, that wasn't real, is when you wake up. Yes? While you're in it, it's as real can be. It's only when you go over it from the other dreaming, which is now, the awake dreaming, then you can sort of say, oh, well, it's this or that. But, yeah, that's all made up because of this. You weren't seeing a fucking thing. You were totally immersed in it, yeah? Just like we're immersed in this. We're immersed in this, so we think we can see that as something else, but we're not seeing this as something else. Like Ramana would say, it's the awake dream. So you wake up into the awake dream, and you never question this fucker, yeah, because we're not waking up from it. We don't, yeah? That we all will, inevitably, when the body perishes, but we're not seemingly waking up to it now, yeah? Then you would see everything about this place, yeah, if you were removed from it. But while you're in it, it's pointless to become an expert here. The value is to know what you're not, to study what you're not, to understand what you're not, yeah? Because you're already experiencing everything from what you're not, yeah? So by seeing what you're not, and knowing what you're not, and studying what you're not, and understanding what you're not, it gives you like a reflective hit of what you are, which is that which is all seeing, all knowing, all understanding, yeah. But you can't get a direct hit of it. It needs the boomerang. It's like a bumper shot in pool. You can't hit the ball. You have yeah. And this is what non-duality is, in a way. It's like a bumper shot. It doesn't say, oh, there's all oneness. It just says there's not two. and it's seamless, and it carries on completely. The negation is the basis. It doesn't end. There's negation, 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 and then there's a finding out through the negation, a sense of what you are. You get a sense of what you are by seeing what you're not. And I don't mean visually seeing, I mean awareness. Yeah? You become aware of what you're not, and in that awareness of what you're not, there's a sense of what you are. Yeah? You're lent a sense of what you are by seeing what you're not. If you didn't, there would be no sense of what you are. You just is, and there would be no dreaming and nothing. It would just be, yeah. But in a weird way, we can get a hit of what we are by almost like catching a little glimpse of it in a reflection, but not as a noun, but as movement. Yeah, you get a hit, and it almost sees itself. But that hit seems to happen when you see what you're not. Yeah, you become available in a sense to what is through what ain't. You know, what ain't. What is needed a mirror of what it wasn't to get a hit of itself. So when it looks into the mirror, it sees things and goes, I'm not that, and that's how it gets a boomerang. Yeah? Because it can't have an experience of itself. It can't know itself, it's all-knowing. But it can get a hit. It's a trip. So it looks at this giant mirror, and it goes, boom, and it realizes awareness, infinite dreaming, but it gets a hit of it. Maybe it wanted to have a hit of itself, who knows? And it made this huge thing going on just to get that, just go through it all, and then just for one little whack, and to get a sense of what it is. Maybe, probably a super rush. Because it can't turn around and have an experience of itself. But if it dreams of what it isn't, if it's dreaming of what it isn't, by seeing what it isn't, it can get a sense of what it is, I would say. That's how it translates to me. I know something knows now, you know, and I know I'm not privy to it. I'm just a fucking vehicle doing fucking shit, yeah? Truly. I'm not, you know, it's not my job to have that or to try to know that. This job is to just be an expression of that, yeah? And maybe through its moving, maybe you'll get a feeling around it. And maybe you can reach your highest level of it as an action figure and maybe surrendered and compassionate or something, or love, those things. It can probably, that's the highest this action figure can be used for, yeah? But it can never, it's not, the brush isn't meant to know the artist's mind. It's just meant to paint what the artist wants to paint. That's how I feel about it. Yeah. And you get a lot of joy out of it because you see, like the other day, got home, the food I put out for the birds didn't seem to be touched much, you know? And I didn't see any for the last day or two. So then I went out in the back and I sat down. I was just sort of stretching out in a chair. Suddenly, Darshan, woodpecker comes. I love woodpeckers. Then hummingbird at the same time. So I saw the two birds I was looking for. Just when I sat there, a hummingbird. Yeah, I just sat there and then they both showed up. And I just had a darshan and left, and I just was like, I had felt such a, that's what this can express, you know. It can see the magic of things. So it has its story, and then life will just, or the dreaming will just bring a beautiful, like, vista to it, just to humble it and just to allow it just to stay, and I don't know, you know. That's a workable, like, place the knob to be at. I don't know, you know. It works better that way. I know, no, not so well. I don't know, it's workable. Yeah, it keeps it. Yeah, and then you see, it was such, I don't know how to express it personally, but it was a beautiful message from myself to myself, really. Yeah, through this little vehicle, woodpecker, hummingbird, that's good, you know? So, I had a good chance at these talks this time, it's true, to really, some I felt pretty satisfied as the action figure. I thought I did it the best I could. You know, just trying to present this point. And, because I don't know, ever since it dawned on me, or was through me, I haven't been moved to talk about anything else really. And I really truly believe there's no point unless this point's cleared. All the other points are blemished, you know, by the missing one. If you miss this, it affects everything that comes after. All the things that come after may not correct that blemish, yeah? Do you know what I mean? This, if not seen, will be a shadow following, yeah? Something here going out to war with the shadow isn't going to undo it. Yeah? That which is playing God tries to quit playing God, that's playing God, yeah? If you see it here before, that's the freedom. If you know it afterwards, you can see its effects by meetings like this with the word awakening, enlightenment. These words that mean something and how they're used by the mental state just to promote more your mental anxiety. Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it, really? You would hope that these settings would be promoting, but the mental state claims these settings and uses it to cause more suffering. What time is it, bro? Maybe we should go and eat at this place.
8:17.
Yeah, let's go. You want to? Let's go eat, because we have an appointment at 8:30 and we can talk there.